Welcome to Nutrition Nutz, where we discuss the latest nutrition breakthroughs, supplements, and wellness choices with leaders in the natural products industry, health practitioners, and research scientists. I'm your host, Jim Wilkes, certified nutritionist. Thanks to our main sponsor, HollyHillVitamins.com, the place for great selection, service, and prices. Check out their extensive wellness library for updated science-based info. Okay, folks, thanks again for joining us today on Nutrition Nutz. And I got a couple of nuts with me here today live, so this is cool. I love doing this off the phone, face-to-face, and it makes it more like a party, right? I can have a party here. And in the studio today, I have Jamie Cotter, who's an herbalist and educator, and Dewey Thomas, who is an educator as well. And they're with a company called WishGarden Herbs. So very unique company, unique formulas, unique names. This would be my second vocation. If I was looking for a job, I would want to name certain herbal formulas and put a nice name to it. But they beat me to it, and they're great. So we're going to be talking about Genius Juice and Tree Country, Kick-Ass Allergy, all these great names and great herbal combinations from WishGarden. And you can catch them on WishGardenHerbs.com. And again, you can always go to HollyHillVitamins.com. We'll be offering a 15% discount. So in honor of having them here today, we're going to be talking herbs, folks, which we've done a bunch of shows on, but these formulas are kind of unique. So I'd love you guys to listen to it. And also, they have a different delivery method that's kind of unique as well. And they actually use a pump spray. So we're going to be talking about that. I'm tired of doing those little drops into things, and the pump sounds so much better thing. And I wonder why no one else has been doing this. So it's pretty cool. So welcome, Jamie and Dewey. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So Jamie, we just met,
yep.
And you came all the way from California to see me.
I did. I did.
And hope you're enjoying the hot weather.
You know what? I hate being cold. That's why I live in California. So I never complain about it.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And it is cold here in the studio. So I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So interesting story about you're an herbalist, you're an educator. How'd you come about this vocation?
Yeah. Like most people, I was sort of forcefully pushed into it. I didn't wake up one day and say, I want to be a weird herbalist hippie. It happened gradually. I had a very normal origin story. In my early 20s, I was living in Chicago, and one day, everything just went out of whack in my body. It was just an implosion of felt miserable. And this is 2005. So I always joke, the internet existed, but you couldn't just Google every single thing. There was no real Dr. Google at that time.
Right.
So the resources weren't out there. I went the standard route. I went to doctors. I tried to get some answers. They did blood work, and they said, nothing's wrong with you. You're perfectly healthy. And I was like, well, something feels wrong. So I'm going to have to keep seeking. And so I thought, you know what? I've seen books down at the local health food store. Let me go down there and see what I can find out. I'm living in Chicago. So I went to the health food store, started reading books. And then the light bulb went off that, wow, what I'm eating could be impacting how I feel. And this misery, this digestive upset, lightheadedness, all these things could be related to my diet. So I started changing my diet. That was the first thing I did. I started taking supplements. One of the first things I did was chlorophyll and aloe and things like that I knew could help bring back some balance. And within weeks, this, plague that had been kind of bringing me down for 6 months at this point started to turn around seemingly overnight. And I saw what happened when I gave my body the right things and took away I don't want to say right and wrong, but the things that aren't ideal for it, and how quickly the healing process began. So that was my gateway into this whole world of nutrition, natural health. And then when you learn one thing, your eyes kind of open up to all the other things. What am I putting on my skin? Is that good for me? What is the medicine I'm taking? Should I be going to the drugstore? Oh, wait, there's a natural equivalent to all these things in the drugstore. There's herbs, there's homeopathy. So I really I learned a lot about healing, but I got most passionate about herbs because this whole idea that this medicine was put on this earth for us and that it's so compatible with the human body. This is as natural as you can really get with, using medicine from the earth. I got really passionate about that. And that eventually led me to WishGarden because I had been using herbs and herbal remedies for about 10 years before I knew of WishGarden. And when I found these remedies, they blew my mind with how effective they were, how thorough the use strategy guidance was. And that made me really want to. I was like, I'm going to be talking about this whether you pay me or not. So it would be nice to not just be like the weirdo out there.
It's nice to get paid for something you love.
Really nice, because it would have been difficult to just be on like the street corner preaching herbalism and having to beg for money. So,
and there's not that many herbs on the street corner, so that's
exactly.
You have to go around to the backyard.
Yeah. So it's been 7 years I've been with WishGarden, and I have loved every minute of getting to travel all over the country and talk about what I'm most passionate about, which is natural health and herbalism. And
Sure. And how long has WishGarden been around?
WishGarden has been around since 1979. So we were founded by a midwife in Boulder, Colorado in the late 70s.
Of course.
This is, of course, right? One of the hubs of natural health. And she was just really focused on her clients who were on their pregnancy journeys and wanting to bring natural remedies to support them, because midwives, at that time, I don't know what the laws are now, we're not allowed to carry any sort of pharmaceutical. You definitely have to have certain medical degrees to carry a pharmaceutical. Yeah. So the midwives relied on the plants that had been used. I mean, herbs have been our medicine for 99% of human history. It's just the last 100 or so years that pharmaceuticals have even been around. So the midwives went back to the plants. And so they're really big ways responsible for the herbal renaissance that really began in the late 70s when companies like WishGarden and other herbal companies were founded. Mm-hmm. And in 1987, our current owner, Catherine Hunziker, bought the company, also a trained midwife, but had way more of a vision to grow beyond midwifery, which is why we now have close to 100 formulas for everyone. We have a kids line, a women's specific line. We still have pregnancy and postpartum. And then the bulk of what we do is everyday adult wellness. So for everyone.
And it's a women-based company.
Yeah. To this day, Catherine still owns the company with her kids. So we're women-owned, family-run. We are a family business through and through. No corporate ownership, just real old-school family business. Our dedication is to the plants and to the people who we're making these remedies for. And that's what we're very mission-driven.
You mentioned pharmaceutical. That's kind of taken over in the last 100 years or so, but it's all based in herbal medicine pharmaceuticals. Correct?
Yes, most pharmaceutical drugs were derived from a plant at one point. They found the constituent in the plant, figured out how to isolate it, and then concentrate it, and that was the early days of pharmaceuticals. And then what they have done since is they have found like a synthetic source to make the same medicine so that it can be patented and trademarked, because you cannot patent nature. Right. So that's why these pharmaceuticals are no longer made from plants. But what's ironic is in the U.S. Pharmacopoeia, which is the big guide of all medicines, most botanicals used to be in there. And then slowly over time, more and more and more came out into the point where there's almost nothing left. But, this used to be recognized as a legitimate form of medicine. And then the power of the powers that be have put this really under the table.
Well, yeah, like you said, there's not much money in the natural stuff there. So unless everybody in the world is taking it and getting it from your company, then there's some money in it. So I can understand that. And, there is a time and a place for pharmaceuticals, of course.
Absolutely.
But the nice thing about herbs, they can sometimes, there's a lot of herbs that you can't take with certain pharmaceuticals, but there's others that can complement as well.
Yeah.
So it's that's why it's good to seek out people like yourself there to go through that.
I think in many ways we're actually kind of in a golden age of personal medicine because we have the power that pharmaceuticals can offer. Like some of these methods and drugs are life-saving and they're essential and we're glad they exist, but they don't solve our lifestyle issues, right? They're not great at the chronic issues. So if we, with all this knowledge we have today and all of the science, we can really combine using natural remedies for our day-to-day and then saving the pharmaceuticals. Because we also don't want to go back to the time where people died of preventable things, right? And so it's a really cool time in history where we can really re-embrace plants and then also have the stuff that's life-saving.
There you go. I mentioned that you guys have they have their tinctures, folks, and extracts, and we can talk a little bit about. Well, that's a good place to start. The difference between a tincture and, you have different classifications for herbs, right? And deliveries.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference, like an extract and a tincture and a formula?
So tincture basically means herbal plants, herbal constituents extracted in alcohol. And there's always some percentage of water in there as well. Now, something unique that we do, because an alcohol-free tincture is usually, this is simplifying it, usually just extracted in glycerin.
Right.
So what we do at WishGarden is we use all three. We use alcohol, water, and glycerin to extract every single plant. So the beauty is you get the full strength of extracting with alcohol. That alcohol is the best method to getting to the most constituents in a plant, which is what you want. You want as many of the constituents out of that plant as possible. But the beauty of adding glycerin is that we're able to reduce alcohol in the finished product. So you don't get this high alcohol tincture. A lot of people don't like tinctures because they don't like the way it kind of feels like it's burning their mouth.
Mouthfeel, yeah.
It feels like they did a shot of whiskey with, when they take a tincture. So our tinctures range between about 25 and 45% alcohol. So that's much more palatable, very easy to take directly if you're okay with the bitter herbal-y taste, but much smoother, better tasting. You can actually pick up more of the plants, which is a part of herbalism.
But aren't there certain plants that do better with glycerin extract than alcohol usually?
Yeah. So
sometimes?
So if you look at any plant, there's dozens, hundreds of constituents in the plant. Some of those constituents will only come out with alcohol. Some prefer water or glycerin. They maybe don't like alcohol. They're repelled by alcohol. So you really need to think about, what are the constituents I'm going for in this plant? And what is the best method to use? So when you see an alcohol-free tincture, I don't want to say it's better or worse, but you're definitely missing some constituents in that plant, especially when you're looking at immune constituents. Those tend to be the ones that are more pulled out by alcohol. So if you see an alcohol-free product that you're taking for immune activation, maybe not your most effective.
People get a little freaked out about alcohol, don't they? Let's talk a little bit about that.
I would love to.
Why should I be concerned about alcohol in tinctures?
You shouldn't be. This is really funny. In high school or college, I studied film. I was a language arts person. The idea that I need chemistry in my life is the ultimate irony. I wish I could go back to high school and take chemistry. So it's all chemistry. Alcohol is the most effective medium for kind of breaking apart a cell membrane of a plant and getting to certain active constituents, really the most of them. And so I usually tell people when they're annoyed by the alcohol or freaked out by it or they don't drink, it's always just a chemistry conversation, right? Which is not my forte. But just this whole idea of this is the chemistry of how you get the constituents out of this plant. That is why alcohol is used. If there was a better extraction medium, we'd all be using it, right? And it's very much a dose makes the poison kind of situation. This is not like having a drink. We've been servicing communities around the country for 45 years who don't drink. It's just not part of their belief system, their culture. But they totally get it for medicine making because they know that is how you get these constituents out of the plant. And you have to remember in a tincture, this is like we have a 2-ounce bottle. If it's 45% alcohol and it's 20 plus servings in here, you're getting fractional amounts of alcohol, very easily metabolized by the body. And alcohol actually improves the way constituents enter our cell membranes. So there is multiple purposes: extraction, delivery. It acts as a natural preservative. So there's a lot of benefit to the alcohol. And you just have to remember, this is not like drinking alcohol. This is very medicinal. And we do use the glycerin to try to mellow that out.
And the reason you went to a pump for the major part of your line.
Yeah. So if you can picture a herbal bottle, and usually it's a dropper top. It's very traditional, the 1-ounce dropper bottle. And that's great. We still use them here and there, but we developed a pump top delivery for a few reasons. Most people get very confused with how you're supposed to take it. They don't know if you mean like a couple of drops or a couple of dropper fulls. And then it's like, I'm having trouble filling up the dropper,
Am I squeezing too hard or not hard enough?
Exactly. And it's like 30 drops, and then they're sitting counting to 30, and it's all very confusing, and no one knows what a milliliter is in this country. I don't know.
I know. It's terrible.
It's crazy. So we developed a pump bottle. It's really cool. You just can hold it in one hand. You don't have to open it, which is great for me who would spill it everywhere. And we are able to say our serving size is 7 pumps or 8 pumps. It makes it super simple for people, very easy to take directly or to pump into a little shot of water or juice. And we developed this as a way to make it very easy to explain how to take a tincture.
Yeah, folks, we're talking again with Jamie Cotter. She's an herbalist and educator for WishGarden Herbs. And Dewey Thomas is here too, who represents a lot of companies out there and gets them into market and educates people on it. Dewey, you've been using some of these tinctures for a while?
They really work.
Yeah.
Work well.
I know, knowing you for all these years, you usually do not represent something unless you've tested it on yourself and your family and things like that, right?
Yes, they have some very exciting products, and they have a methodology Jamie was talking about in terms of getting enough herbs into your body. And that's usually the challenge. People take one capsule. I did it. But these are some really awesome combinations. I call them the queens of the combos.
Ah, okay. I like that.
And Jamie can articulate on that. And they're traditional. A lot of them are traditional North American recipes.
Yeah.
And when you look at herbal healing, the best herbal healing is local.
Right.
And have that become part of your healing protocol as a good first start.
Yeah.
In terms of you having a pristine environment.
Uh-huh.
For us to get all these good herbs from America, we're going to need a clean environment.
Does WishGarden actually grow some herbs, or are they just mostly sourced?
I'm going to let her take over.
All right, Jamie.
Okay, so mostly no, we don't grow our own plants that we use in our formulas. We source from growers all over the country because we do a combination of certified organic, like when they grow on an organic farm. That's plants like that are endangered or gone from the wild, like something like echinacea. You're not going to wild harvest. You're going to get it from an organic grower. We also do a ton of wildcrafting. Now, the beauty of wildcrafting is that these plants live in their natural environments. They tend to have the densest constituents because they fight the hardest to survive the elements.
Right. That can actually be better than organic. Right?
Yes, absolutely. Now, a lot of plants are gone from the wild or they're endangered, so we don't touch those. And when we work with wildcrafters, we make sure that we are working with people who are protecting the environment and making sure that the plant population is sustained there. So we're very, very thorough with our sourcing. But the beauty of sourcing from all over, from different farmers and multi-generational forest farmers or wildcrafters, is we're able to really get the plants from where they grow the best and also support the economy of the farmers, of people. Like we get a lot from Appalachia, forest farm plants from Appalachia, and it's beautiful to see a diversity in what they're able to produce there versus just being dependent on one industry. So we love to be able to get plants from all over. And the other thing we're doing, Catherine, our owner, who's owned the company since 1987, she now runs a nonprofit called the Herbiculture Project, where she is working on getting more plants grown domestically. So she's got a test garden right near our WishGarden offices where she's experimenting with different medicinal plants and seeing, okay, how much light does this one like? How much water? What's the soil condition? And then the next step is teaching farmers how to grow medicinal crops because it's better money for the farmers, better for our soil health, and then it helps our whole industry. This is not just for WishGarden, this is for everyone to have access, domestic sources of these very important medicinal plants that are at risk of going away if we don't protect them.
Do you think there's an answer out in nature for everything that befalls us? I know it's probably more of a belief than a no. But do you feel that way?
I do. I think we tend to think that we have the answers as humans. And if we get out of our own ego and turn back to nature, the answers are there. You know, people get really worried about the planet's survival. I'm like, oh no, the planet's going to be fine. It's the humans who might not make it.
Yeah.
So if we look to nature, I do think whenever, there's certain things that cannot be replicated in a lab. Like they've tried to take bee pollen and replicate that in a lab, and they can't figure it out.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
So you can live on bee pollen.
Yeah,
it's got everything
it has
known.
everything known. And it's kind of incredible natural intelligence. And I think I mean, even just the idea that our nervous systems can be reset by walking through a forest, and we're looking for all these millions of interventions. And it's like, all you have to do is go back to nature.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I like that viewpoint there. You know, some people do take herbs under the tongue, and I've always heard that it's like I don't know if it's a myth or something, but you can absorb it if you can just
Yeah.
put it in juice, and you don't always have to take it straight like that. Grimace every time.
Right. No, you don't have to do sublingual absorption. In fact, with the alcohol in the tincture, it can be a little irritating to tissues, especially if you're sensitive. I will hold the tinctures sometimes sublingually because I'm so used to them. I actually like the taste. And you do start absorbing.
There is a psychological thing.
Yes,
I think you're right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you do start absorbing right through the mucous membranes of the mouth.
Right.
So that's great. But we never want to have barriers to entry. And if someone's like, this is disgusting, like I don't want to force them to do that. So you just really need to get it in the bloodstream. So
Right.
if you have to dilute it in juice or kombucha or whatever you like, that's perfectly fine.
Now I know we touched on this a little earlier, but I get this question a lot, you know, just counseling people all these years. How quickly is this going to work for me? And I said,
Yeah.
such a tough question to answer, right? I mean, I've been to symposiums where herbalists will put people on a program for months, you know, before they really see, I guess it's some deep rooted stuff, and some quick stuff can maybe happen within 15 minutes, right?
Yeah,
I mean, how's
absolutely.
that range like?
Yeah. So sometimes people don't realize that herbs can work so quickly for some symptom support. And people think that you need to take it over time and it like builds up in your system and then magically it kicks in one day and starts working. And I always say it's not true of herbs, it's true of issues. So we're not going to solve, chronic fatigue or a hormone balance in 5 or 15 minutes, but we can certainly bring symptom support to specific things like allergy symptoms. We can support that in 10 minutes. We can do that with period cramps. We were just with a group of women and a woman was telling me that she was like starting to struggle with her cramps. And I had our cramp release product and I handed it to her. And I said, okay, tell me in 5 minutes how you're doing. You might need a second serving, but if not, we're good to go. And then she was like, I don't know if this is in my head, but I think this is working. So we can.
First of all, it's not in her head. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was like, no, it's in your uterus. So they can absolutely. And that's something really at WishGarden we really love to share is that and this is why we're trying to get people to realize you don't have to go to the drugstore for every minor little thing. These are safe, they're effective, they can work quickly.
Oh my God.
And then for the conditions that you do need more long-term support, we have tonics. That's what we call something that you take over time. So hormone balancers, you're going to take over the course of a couple of months to bring balance back. So
makes sense to me. Also, what I've noticed in your catalog here, you have like 3 ways of using these herbs. And one is fastest effect strategy. These are strategies, folks. Fastest effect, then move through it strategy. Then the third was tonic strategies. So you just mentioned the tonic thing. So that's the fast, just go into a little depth.
Yeah. So what we wanted to really do was this whole concept we were just talking about is different strategies for different reasons. So are you looking for in the moment symptom relief? That's the fastest effect. And the way you do that, like let's use, allergies as an example. So we have a formula called Kick-Ass Allergy. So if you're having symptoms, the watery eyes, runny nose, itching, all that stuff, you're going to take your serving, which on our bottle is going to be 8 pumps. It's 3 milliliters. You let that kick in, give it 5-10 minutes to do its thing, and you're going to check back in. How do I have the symptom relief? And if you get it in one serving, I always joke that you're a cheap date. That's the dream because it's an expensive habit when you need more. But we're all different, right? Constitutions are different. The severity of our symptoms is going to be different day to day. So if you feel like, okay, I'm getting some relief, but I'm not fully there, you can take a second serving. You can really play with how much volume you need to get the job done. And because we're all different, there is no one size fits all. Volume might be a little different person to person. Now, we're going to max you out at a certain point. We're not going to let you drink the bottle. But we really play within a range. And then the move through it, which you mentioned, usually that's done in an immune response. That's the idea of you take the remedy every couple of hours to keep your immune response ahead of what's trying to get you, right? So let's keep activating. That's short term. That's going to be between 1 and 5 days of pretty frequent use to knock something out. And then tonic is the idea of this would be something like if you're going through a period of chronic stress and you want to really bring the sort of protection. And so you're going to take something like deep stress twice a day. over the course of a couple of weeks or
Right.
even a couple of months. And so and not every formula is appropriate for every strategy.
Right.
So some formulas like Kick-Ass Immune, our signature immune activator, that is meant for when you are dealing with symptoms, not every day. You don't want your immune system on guard and hyperactive every day. You want it in homeostasis. You want it ready to go, but not hyperactive.
Interesting.
So different formulas. We have one called Daily Immune. That's something that you can take for a couple weeks at a time, maybe a month at a time, when you're looking for more strength in the immune system, but not dealing with an active issue.
So that could be a seasonal thing too. Like
Totally.
during the winter, I take certain things I don't take the rest of the year.
Exactly. When you know you're going through high exposure. So
Right.
we're going to come up on back to school, different parts of the country. It's going to be 3 weeks to a month or so from now. And back to school is a big time to think about that tonic strategy. Okay, stress is going to amp up. Immune issues are going to amp up.
Right.
Let's take these tonics for a couple of weeks to give the whole family a little bit of
Right,
protection
right.
from all that.
That back to school gets my stress levels up, only because of the buses on the road.
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Some of us who don't even have to deal with it, really, we have to deal with traffic.
I got to get to work. Stop that.
Yeah.
And you get in front of these apartment buildings and 50 kids come out. I said, you're there for an hour. It's amazing. Can you mix these formulas at all? Do people mix herbal formulas? Is that an appropriate thing to do?
Yeah, you definitely can. As long as you're kind of on the same theme. So like, let's stick on immunity. Let's say you're combating some symptoms and you want to generally kind of activate your immune response. So you
Right.
take the Kick-Ass Immune, but you're also dealing with a cough. So you could also take the serious cough with it, right? You can combine in that way. And then, of course, the exception is like you're not going to take something like an energy formula with a sleep formula. I think that's obvious to most people. But it's perfectly fine to combine like things. Like deep stress is I think of as a tonic. I think that's really
Right.
good for building resilience. But you might need some in-the-moment support if you're feeling a bout of like overwhelm, and that's our emotional ally. That's really good for in-the-moment combating a feeling of overwhelm, anxiousness, things like that.
I'm sorry, folks. I'm gonna get a prescription for myself here.
Sure.
I get some anxiety when I play some competition kind of things.
Okay.
And when I get into a tournament or a competition,
Yeah.
I get very anxious.
Yeah.
And is that something I can? Is one of your formulas something I could use that would?
Yeah, I would say the one that's most suited for that is going to be Emotional Ally. So when you're feeling an occasional feeling of anxiousness, overwhelm, it's really where you feel that nervous system.
Yeah.
You feel like I kind of want to shut down right now instead of engage.
Right.
That's what Emotional Ally is really good at, supporting kind of a lift in the spirits and a calming of the nervous system. And that works really quickly. So,
All right, folks. So
yeah.
I'll tell you how I do after I get through one of my tournaments here. I'm going to definitely try that there.
Yeah.
And you have something called cranial comfort.
Yes.
That's a great name.
Yes. We're always naming to try to guide you to what that's doing. So that's good for tension release. Main herb in there is white willow bark, which a lot of people are very familiar with, very rich in
right.
salicylic acid. And it's what aspirin used to be made from before they found a way to do it from
Exactly.
coal or something.
And you also have one called Badass Bitters. One of your favorite, one of Dewey's favorites, Badass Bitters. Bitters that, so popular in Europe all these years.
Yeah.
It's still not really not here for some reason. What happened? They all came over from there. And
I know.
They forgot to bring the bitters with them.
Yeah, we've lost a lot of wisdom, but bitters is actually incredible because a lot of people deal with digestive issues in today's world. And everything starts with the gut, right? So digestive issues are one of your most common situations. And so the beauty of bitters is most of what we're supposed to be doing traditionally is eating bitter foods. So when you eat bitter foods, it tells your body, oh, okay, it's time to digest. Let me release saliva and enzymes and hydrochloric acid and bile. But because of the lack of bitter foods in our diet, we can use the tools of the bitter constituents in the plant to do the same thing.
Okay.
So you take the bitters before a meal, a couple minutes before. I do like to do that one directly onto the tongue to stimulate the bitter taste receptors. And when you take it, you're going to kick into gear all those digestive processes. So it's a really good way to support better digestion without having to use a lot of tools. Like people take a lot of supplements for digestion. They take enzymes, they take hydrochloric acid, they're doing probiotics, all this stuff. And by using bitters, which you can use all the time, especially a meal that's going to be high in fat or protein, using the bitters can help support a healthier digestive process. where you're not needing as many other tools. So it's a very cost-effective, healthy way to support digestion.
I have to put a little bit of pharmacy in my car because I'm usually a good boy until I go out or something.
Yeah.
And now you got party prep and all that, and exercise and revive.
You want to hear about party prep?
Yeah. And all yeah, I'm sure all the frat boys listening would love to hear this.
Right. Used to love your parties. Circa 2000. Yes. So party prep is a newer formula for us.
Okay.
Meeting where the world is at, of course, giving people the right tools. The thing that cracks me up about party prep is I've been preaching the herbal gospel for about since 2007. And my friends think I'm nuts, right? So like most.
Hey, that's why you're on Nutrition Nutz.
Yeah. So mostly I'm getting eye rolls and like, okay, Jamie. But party prep is the one they're suddenly all wanting to hear about, right?
Yeah, so
party prep supports the metabolism of alcohol. So you take it before you drink or maybe while drinking. It's not about the next day.
Right.
The next day, the metabolism is done and you're dealing with the fallout. So what we're trying to do is mitigate those feelings the next day. So we say supports a better morning after. So let's say ideally you take your serving of party prep before you have your first drink. What party prep helps to do is create more of the enzyme. It tells your body to create more of the enzyme that gobbles up acetaldehyde. And acetaldehyde is the byproduct of alcohol metabolism. Right. If there's too much acetaldehyde that your body is having trouble metabolizing, you're going to feel it in the symptoms the next day. And so if we can make that metabolism more efficient, we can hopefully mitigate and make you feel a lot better. The thing to know also about the metabolism of alcohol is that it worsens as we age, which is why we feel worse and worse the older we get. And women produce less of that enzyme altogether, which is why alcohol can be more problematic for women. So that formula is really great.
That's the only way they can talk to men, though. So
well, I know, but that's why we have party prep. So yeah, and there's prickly pear in there. Prickly pear is a wonderful antioxidant.
Yes.
It really there's tons of research
Isn't there another name for prickly pear?
Oh, well, there's the Latin name, but there's a lot of different varieties of it. So I could look in there.
I think it was for hangovers at one time I read about. I don't know if that's true.
Definitely alcohol support is one of the things that it's known to do, but it was a very important food for Native peoples in this country, and it grows all over. Like I live in Southern California where we see tons of it. You'll see it in the Southeast. You may see it in different parts of the world. It's a cactus fruit.
Right. That's right.
It could be used for food, for medicine. It's an incredible plant.
Any herbs, where I'm the subject there, because I know this frat boys also do other things besides alcohol. Are there any herbs there to kind of, how should I say, balance out some other things that they're doing?
Yeah. Well, if they're damaging their lungs in any way, then I would recommend a formula we have called Deep Lung. Okay. Now, Deep Lung is really good for respiratory immune response. That's how like non-frat boys are kind of using it. They don't feel well, symptoms are in the chest. We're using Deep Lung for respiratory immune. But when you have exposure, and this could be frat boys, it could be firefighters, construction workers, any of us breathing in bad air quality.
Urban situations.
Urban areas. I don't know if you guys, if people remember last summer, the bad air came from Canada because of all their wildfires. So these areas were covered in smoke. And what people don't realize is like, okay, the air quality is dangerous. Let me stay inside these next couple of days. But all that is coming into our lung tissue, and we see a lot of downstream effects that maybe don't show up for months later. But if you think about this more situationally, you have smokers, you're smoking marijuana, cigarettes, whatever. If you're getting exposure in the lungs, Deep Lung is a really good short term. You don't want to take this long term. It's quite active. But if you do it in that like 2 servings a day for a week or two, it's a really good way to support.
Well, saying that, I have friends and associates that do smoke all the time, just cigarettes. Mm-hmm. And but is that something that they could do? You said not to take it for it's a tough question.
It's really tricky because what we're formulating is under the parameters of like, okay, this is formulated for a healthy population, right? And then there's always extremes, and there's the kind of bubble of healthy normal, and then there's okay, well, sometimes we tip out of healthy, and herbs are here to help bring us back into balance.
I got you saying.
When we're on the extremes, though, we have to be more considerate because it's like, well, this isn't really meant as an everyday tool, right? But also, If you're smoking every day, then we do need to help support you. Now, deep lung is so active. It's not what I would take every day. There are certainly some tonic herbs you could do on your own if you are an everyday smoker. You could do on their own that you could take as sort of the little bit of compensation. But deep lung is something, if you're an active smoker, I would do that maybe a few times a year as almost like a cleanse.
Right.
Like take it twice a day for like 3 weeks, a few times a year. That's going to do the deep clean out.
It's like taking your lungs on vacation for...
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
How about the little guys, the kids and stuff? What kind of formulas do you have for them?
We love kids. We formulate specifically for kids. So we have a really nice lineup of both immune, nervous system, behavioral, attention support. So we have a great lineup for kids. We started in pregnancy 45 years ago. And so naturally the moms were like, well, what can I give my kids now? So the kids formulas came out of that. It's one of the fastest growing areas we're seeing in our company is for kids because so many parents are wanting more natural solutions for their kids. I mean, immunity, yes, it's always been a thing, but especially for some of the behavioral attention things, they're not wanting to put their kids, young kids, on pharmaceuticals. And so we're seeing, I've been to so many natural medicine conferences this year. The biggest question I'm getting is like, what do you have for kids? So we formulate thinking of their gentle bodies. They don't need the same intensity adults need.
Right.
So we're able to choose these really gentle, beautiful plants that are still really effective. So we have immune selection. And then I'd say some of our highlights for kids that are really interesting, we have a formula called Attention Ally. So when you have kids starting to go to school, having to do homework, and they're having trouble focusing, whether it's during the school day or when they have to sit and do their homework, this has become a really popular formula. It's very much about the nervous system. Let's nourish and calm that sort of dysregulated nervous system and then also support the health of the brain so that we can improve the way kids are able to focus. Now, of course, there's also the argument of like kids, should kids even have to sit for 8 hours a day in a classroom setting? Is that natural, right? That's a different argument.
Yeah, you have to talk to the Waldorf kid.
Exactly. But really, even if kids are in a Waldorf school, the teacher might be like, this kid is bouncing off the walls. He's not paying attention. He won't focus on his work or whatever. And so Attention Ally is a really nice way to bring some grounding to the nervous system and help those kids, focus on what they're doing. So that's one of my favorite formulas right now.
They have no problem focusing on the phone, though, for some reason.
Yeah, I know. Shocking.
Stolen.
Stolen focus. That's the name of my new group. Oh, really? Seriously? Oh, my goodness. Remember, folks, you can go to wishgardenherbs.com. Oh, Liquid Bliss for peace and tranquility.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. That's, I need this right before my meditations there.
Yeah.
Right? Liquid Bliss.
Liquid Bliss is a very cool formula. So we have a request from Dewey to address Liquid Bliss, which I'm thrilled because I think this is the coolest herbal remedy that we make and that you're really going to ever see. So
cool.
A lot of remedies out there that are like, they'll say something about happiness or joy or whatever. They're really nervous system remedies, right? Which is great. We need Emotional Ally, which I talked about earlier, very much about the nervous system.
Sure.
Liquid Bliss is a little bit more about brain chemistry. This is helping boost our mood. So we all have experienced those times of feeling a little grumpy, little not people-y. Maybe we're going to a party, we're feeling a little antisocial, going on a date. You're going to Thanksgiving and there's like an uncle there who really irritates you. We all need this in today's world. There's a little bit of tension going around. So Liquid Bliss takes that kind of grumpiness and very quickly helps. It supports the release of oxytocin. That's what's a really cool functionality. Cotton root bark.
I never heard of cotton root bark.
Yes. This is a classic American herb. It's the root of the cotton plant. And so cotton root bark facilitates the release of oxytocin. This is used in labor, in a natural labor. If labor has slowed, they will support the use of the cotton root bark to help induce contractions. In a hospital, they'll give you Pitocin, synthetic oxytocin. So cotton root bark, great for all of us because we all need oxytocin. It's our love bonding connection hormone.
That's true.
And so when you're feeling that grumpy, disconnected thing, Liquid Bliss quickly helps to shift your mood, shift your thoughts. And I call it the fake it till you make it formula because all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I'm good. Hey, Uncle Bob, we can chat. And it really lifts your spirits. It's great for people who don't drink and want to get in that same feel good,
euphoric
type of kind of take away the inhibitions a little bit.
Cacao nib is in there.
Yeah. That's also because cacao has properties that support our dopamine responses, right?
That's true. That's why we love chocolate. I gotcha.
happy
You
that.
guys are pretty smart, huh?
Yes, yeah, we know what we're doing. Catherine really knows what she's doing when she makes these formulas.
Right. The passion flower too stops that crazy thinking and all that.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
And it's a great formula. It also has Damiana and
Yeah.
Hawthorn and orange peel in there as well. Liquid Bliss. All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to put the little drugstore in my car there. That's it.
Yeah. Liquid Bliss I do leave in my car because it usually catches you when you're on your way somewhere. You're starting to think and worry on your way to the party or the date or the whatever. And then you're like, oh, wow, I need something right now. And you take this and then you show up and you're like, hello.
It's so hard to explain to the cops that stop you too. It's very difficult. That's so funny. Well, folks, remember, it's wishgardenherbs.com. You can find out a lot more about their products. Also, hollyhillvitamins.com if you want to order. Mention Nuts, N-U-T-Z, and you get 15% off. I think they're great products. I know I'm going to be ordering it. So there's a whole bunch here that I would love to try. And I'll get back to you, I promise. All right, guys. So thank you so much, Jamie Cotter, Dewey Thomas. It's been a pleasure. Let's do this again, maybe 6 months down the road or so.
Would love to.
Get some more new formulas out there. All right, guys, that's it. We'll talk to you real soon. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Please subscribe to the channel so you can get our latest episodes. And if you want to contact me with any questions or comments, try jimwilkcnc@gmail.com. Thanks again.